Welcome to the Deep Wealth Podcast, where you learn how to extract your business and personal deep wealth. I'm your host, Jeffrey Feldberg. This podcast is brought to you by Deep Wealth and the 90-Day Deep Wealth Experience. When it comes to your business deep wealth, your exit or liquidity event is the most important financial decision of your life. But unfortunately, up to 90% of liquidity events fail. Think about all that time and your hard-earned money wasted. Of the quote-unquote successful liquidity events, most business owners leave 50% to over 100% of the deal value in the buyer's pocket and don't even know it. I should know. I said no to a seven-figure offer and yes to mastering the art and the science of a liquidity event. 2 years later, I said yes to a different buyer with a 9-figure deal. Are you thinking about an exit or liquidity event? Don't become a statistic and make the fatal mistake of believing the skills that built your business are the same ones to sell it. After all, how can you master something you've never done before? Let the 90-Day Deep Wealth Experience and the 9-step roadmap of preparation help you capture the best deal instead of any deal. At the end of this episode, take a moment and hear from business owners like you who went through the Deep Wealth Experience. When it comes to navigating the ins and outs of business, Sonya Shelton has seen it all. From successful startups with brand new ideas to well-established Fortune 500 companies, Sonya Shelton founded Executive Leadership Consulting in 2007 from her passion for partnering with leaders and high achievers to create a clear vision and build work environments where employees are fulfilled and completely committed to their organization's success. She has captured her leadership tips and success stories in her #1 Amazon best-selling book, You're an Executive, but Are You a Leader? Having been an executive as well as an international speaker and consultant, Sonya knows how to tap into lesser-known, hidden practices that drive true leadership. Her philosophy, background, and experience add a strategic, pragmatic, and multidimensional approach to making strong leaders. Sonya serves on the Forbes Coaches Council and is a certified Master Corporate Executive Coach through the Association of Corporate Executive Coaches. Welcome to the Deep Wealth Podcast, and are you ready for a loaded and rhetorical question? Good, because here it is. Would you like to grow your business? Do you want to accelerate how you get to bigger profits, revenues, and success? And I know, of course, you said yes. Well, you heard it in the official introduction. We have quite the guest today. #1 best-selling author, thought leader, works with the Fortune 500 down to the 10 to the 50, all those amazing different companies. She's here for us, a success coach, a business coach. She's going to give us the ins and outs. So, Sonya, welcome to the Deep Wealth Podcast. An absolute pleasure to have you with us. And, you know, there's always a story behind the story. So, Sonya, what's your story? What got you to where you are today?
Yeah, thank you. First, I want to say thanks for having me. I'm really excited for our conversation. So my company is Executive Leadership Consulting, and we started about 15 years ago after a time when I had a career at the Walt Disney Company as the head of internal communications.
Wow.
And it was a really interesting time. Nobody in my position had ever had the experience that I had, and no one ever will again. We had a member of the Disney family leading a shareholder revolt against our CEO. So Roy Disney was leading a shareholder revolt against our CEO, Michael Eisner, at the time.
Yes.
And imagine I was the head of internal communications, right? So it was like, keep everybody focused and happy about working for the company while we're basically going through a divorce, right? So through that experience, I really saw the best and the worst of culture, right? Disney's known for having a tremendous culture, and to have that experience of when they're at their best as well as when they were at their worst really showed me the power of culture and the impact to the organization, but also the impact to me as a leader. And what that happened, how I showed up through those stresses. And so I really got passionate about helping companies to create that great culture that I learned from Disney, but also recognizing, how do they get through challenging times like some businesses are in right now and maintain that culture in a way that's going to continue to help them grow.
Sonya, it's interesting that you mentioned culture, because I know for us at Deep Wealth on our 9-step roadmap, step number 2, X factors that insanely increase the value, the enterprise value of a company, culture is one of those things. And so we'll get to your book in a moment, and I'm going to tell all the listeners about that. They should really get that. I love your title. We'll get there. But from a culture perspective, as you're coaching, as you're zipping in and out all these different companies, what are we doing right as business leaders in the more successful companies from a culture perspective? And then when you're finished telling us that, maybe we can flip it. Where are we missing and perhaps not doing things as well as we should?
And I think a lot of companies care. Right. I think most leaders care about their teams. They want to have a good culture. They want employees to be happy, but maybe they don't understand how. I think it's really starting with the definition of culture, right? So I think a lot of companies and what they're not doing well is thinking that culture is perks, right? So are they giving free food, or do they have activities that they can do, or they're having, get-togethers and things like that? That's not really what culture is. So culture is really starting from, what is your company purpose? And helping people understand that internally and externally, and then helping each individual connect their personal purpose to that company purpose. And then looking at your strategy, your plans, your goals, and how are they connected to the purpose? How are your processes connecting to your vision and your strategy so that employees are empowered to create more profitability by making your processes more efficient, right? And then ultimately, how are you organized? And do you have who reports to who? How are decisions are made? What's your structure? And is that all connected to your purpose? And then finally, it's passion. Are your people passionate about what they do? And are they passionate about your company? And are they connecting what they do to what you do as a company so that they can grow that passion?
Yeah, so powerful. And for our listeners, were you listening? Did you pick up on that? Because, Sonya, what you're saying does not show up in a spreadsheet. What will show up in a spreadsheet ultimately are the profits when you get it right, and those glowing reviews that you're getting online and the goodwill that's being created out there. But everything that you're talking about, from the vision and the purpose and the passion and the personal purpose, going back to the company vision and purpose. I mean, I love all of that. And it's really a nice tie-in, because to really have that happen in a company, you need to be a leader. And that ties into your book. And I love the title. You're an executive, but are you a leader? And so few words that say so much with that. Do you want to give us a story behind the story about the book and what brought that to be?
Yeah, absolutely. And it came from my own experience, as I mentioned, at Disney, going through what I went through and recognizing that, I fell down on being a leader at some points through that process, as I was under tremendous stress, as I was looking at the environment that I was in. And I recognized, with things that were happening to me, that sometimes people are using their title as a way to motivate or direct people rather than really leading them, instead of pushing them, pulling them forward and really saying, here's where we want to go. Here's what we want to create. Let's do this together, right? As opposed to pushing and being directive and using that executive title. So that's really what brought it to life. And it's really designed for everything from front to back of the book is really designed for who I was as an executive and who I am now in my own company, really looking at what do they have time for? They don't have time to read a big book, right? So it's 50 tips and designed around creating one vision, one voice, and one direction. And then a case study of how one of my clients implemented that tip, and then some coaching questions that I would ask if you were working with me. So it's very digestible and kind of you can dive in based on where you are in your business and what you're struggling with, and to really think about, executives are busy and they want to be better leaders, but may not have the time for that leadership development. So it's really making it digestible for them.
And what I appreciated, Sonya, as I went through the book, as the reader, the very first part of the book, I really felt you're just spot on with it, because you're talking about, and the title for the section is Leading Yourself. So yes, it's great that you have the vision, the voice, the direction, and it's all going in the right way. But really what you're saying, symbolically, and then when you got into it, hey, if you're not doing it right for yourself, be the change that you want to see in other people. And so one of the questions that I want to ask you is, when a business owner or an executive or a leader comes to you and you're putting them through your system that you've honed in on over the years and that you refined, what would we expect to see? What are you going to be doing to really get us from where we are to where we want to be?
Yeah, so our model is called Red Thread Leadership, and it's starting with why, right? So we agree with Simon Sinek in the importance of starting with why. And we do start with the leader themselves, right? What is your personal why? Why do you do what you do? How do you bring that why to life? And then what can others expect from you as a leader? What do you ultimately deliver? And then we take that through to the team why, right? So for each member of your leadership team, what's their individual whys? Then you know how to motivate them because you know what their why is. And then they know how to work with each other and how they can be complementary as opposed to competitive, right? Or creating conflicts. And then we look at the culture, we assess the culture, how you're doing. And then we go through what we call the 5 Ps. So starting with your purpose and what is your company purpose? How do you bring that to life? How do you communicate that internally and externally? And then what is your plan? What is your vision and strategy and goals? And where do you want to go? And then looking at your processes, right? So as I mentioned, getting more efficient with your processes, your positions, who do you hire? How are you structured? And then ultimately, how do you create passion in your organization, right? We look at working with clients, really assessing where they are and then tailoring something to really build something based on where they want to go and how they want to grow so that they could grow as fast as their ambition.
And so let me ask you this, because I know as a leader, as a business owner myself, I've always asked this question. And some days I'm better than others. Some days okay, yeah, got it. Other days I'm like, where do I begin? Where do I start? And so obviously as the leader, as the business owner or the founder, whatever the case may be, there is the passion there. And we're always thinking, okay, how can I help the marketplace, my clients? How can I take the company to the next level? But then when you go from the leadership to the team, and maybe they're in leadership positions, maybe they're not, but the team in general, and I don't like the word employee because to me, it's really not what the spirit is all about. And it's more of a negative connotation, at least for me. But in my mind, I always ask, how can I get the team from the frontline person all the way up to think more like a leader, more like an owner? And based on what you've seen and what you've done, Sonya, and where you've been, how would you give some advice to us of what we can start doing for the team that they can think really like an owner, like a leader, someone who's even in the C-suite?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's not one size fits all, right? All of us are motivated by different things. And as I mentioned, we start with why. So when you understand why, what motivates people, why they do what they do, then you can really tailor how you work with them and where you put them and really leverage that superpower and empower them to use it. So it really is helping to set that direction. And that's why we feel purpose is so important. When they're connected to the purpose, your team will actually help you create ideas about how to move forward. So it's not all on you. Sometimes as founders and business owners, we put it all on our shoulders, right? And it doesn't have to be, because your team, when they understand the purpose and they're excited about it and your vision of where they want to go, they'll create their own ideas and you can empower them to say, bring forward. I want to hear your ideas. I want to know how you think we can do this better. You're closer to the front line. How can we be more efficient? How can we increase our profitability? How can we doing things better? And you empower them to come up with their own ideas and recognizing that you might not always be able to implement them, but at least they know that they have an open forum to be able to share and help you get where you want to go.
I know, some terrific insights there. And you said something interesting. Let's circle back to that. So when we have a company vision and a North Star that everyone can relate to, I can tie my purpose into that. I understand that. Gets me all fired up, all passionate. I don't know about you, Sonya. Most companies, the vision or the mission, and they're separate. Sometimes people say, yeah, vision statement, mission statement, all the same. They're really not. In either scenario, oftentimes it's maybe even printed up on a plaque and it's hanging on the wall. And it's a waste of space. It's collecting dust. No one knows it. It's all these fancy corporate talk words that nobody understands. It's nothing that's going to move the dial. So we know what's there and what is likely happening. How do we do the opposite of that? So when creating a vision and even a different kind of mission to support the vision, how do we make it real? How do we get it that it's in, the team's face day in, day out, and they're really living it? They know it. If you were to ask them about it, they would tell you what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually a test that I do when I go into companies at first. I'll ask just 5 random people. So what's the company vision? See if I get relatively the same answer. I think it's a little bit tricky because if they sort of parrot the same words, then they're not really owning it, right? But if they say it in their own words, so if I'm getting basically the same answer in 5 different sentences, then I know they really own it. So that's something that leaders can do. They can just ask, what do you think our vision is, to test how is it being accepted by the organization? And I think you're absolutely right. That vision these days, I think it's on a PowerPoint slide that lives in a folder somewhere, right? They don't even, if they're working remotely or hybrid, I don't even think it ends up on the wall anymore. And it's really, how do they bring that vision to life? So I say it's called vision for a reason. You have to be able to see it. And one of my favorite examples, and the reason it's one of my favorites is because they actually accomplished it. And at the time, they thought it was impossible. And that was Microsoft's original vision, where they said, we want computer on every desk running Microsoft software. And they really achieved that. But at the time, there wasn't even a computer on every desk, right? But you didn't see that. Yeah, as soon as I say that, you know what that looks like. You know what's happening. And that's why they achieved it, because every single person that worked for the company understood that. They knew what the end looked like and they could articulate it. And every decision that they made was in moving in that direction.
Yeah, what a great example. And people give different terms to that: moonshot or big, hairy, audacious goal, BHAG, or whatever, it's going to be. But it's visionary, but it's also easy, not to confuse simple with simplicity. It's a sentence. It's not all these wordy sentences that are there. So moving along with your system, and let's make a big assumption that we've got the vision down and it's something that's meaningful and it's a big one and it's firing everyone up. I'm going now to the many activities with one direction, and I'm going to put together just a few of the chapters, a few of the points, because I find, at least in my dealings, and you can tell me if I'm on base or off base, that a lot of leaders have problems with these two things that you separated out, as you should, and it was brilliant. Number 35, empowering others. And then 36, aligning systems and processes. And so all you type A personalities that are listening, stop what you're doing, stop multitasking, listen up. We're going to hear straight from the source. So Sonya, how do we really empower others where we have a comfort level and we're not looking over our shoulders? Well, are they going to do it right? I could probably do it faster or better. And that everything is aligned with our systems and our processes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it comes down to measurements and metrics, right? So if you aligning those systems and processes to your vision so that you're moving in the right direction and you're questioning all the time, could we do this better? Things are changing so fast in business today, right? So that if we are doing things, if our processes are the same now that they were 5 years ago, we need to be looking at them again and saying, is this really the best way to do this? Are there other tools that we can use? And leveraging the team to be able to do that too, right? What are you guys seeing out there? What is it that you're seeing other companies do or you're reading about that you think we should try? And is there something that we could innovate? And empowering them to do that without necessarily going off of those systems and processes. So helping them recognize the reason why those systems and processes are in place, and then empowering them to make it better. And I think what just came to mind is one of the things that a lot of companies are dealing with right now is our team members be back in the office, right? And can they work from home? Can they not work from home? Companies are making varying decisions. And what I'm hearing a lot of people say is, we're happy to come into the office, but when we come into the office, when we've had to work out childcare, we've had to work out the commute, right? We've had to do all these things to get there. We need to feel like we're there for a reason. But when I come into the office and I'm on a virtual meeting all day, right? Because some people are in the office and some people aren't in the office. Why am I in the office, right? This is just an example of looking at all your processes and what's the reason behind it? What's the purpose behind it? Do people understand why you're doing what you're doing? And do you know why you're doing what you're doing? Are you just following what other companies are saying or doing, or maybe the way things always have been done?
Yeah, Sonya, what a great point. And for the leaders and the business owners out there, it really goes back to culture. So you're asking your team to now come into the office, and let's be open and honest about it. It's a pain in the you-know-what. But are we just saying, well, come to the office because I feel better, I know that you're there, and somehow magically you're going to be working? So really what I'm hearing you say, if we're having people come back to the office, create the structure in the office that supports them of what they could do there that they couldn't do back remotely, back in the home office or wherever they're going to be working from. Would I be correct with that?
Yes, absolutely. One of our clients, we worked with them right at the beginning when things were starting to open, and the surveys with their employees to say, what do you want? What is the best case scenario? And most people said, we want to have both. We want to be able to come together when we need to and be able to work from home when we don't need to come together. We helped them create this great system that worked for their culture and their business, where they get together 3 days a month everybody in the company is there.
Mhm.
They have all their team meetings, they have their town halls, the leadership team gets together on strategy work, right? Everybody is together for those 3 days a month. The calendar is published for the whole year. Nobody takes time off during that time. And that's their time to collaborate. And it's worked really well for them. So it's looking at how can you be innovative with how you're looking at this and really asking your team for feedback on what they want and what they think would be best for the business to grow as well.
Yeah, what terrific insight. So there we have a company that is as active as the team in saying, okay, how are we going to make this work? How do we make your life value added and easier? If you're going to take the time and effort to come in, let us make it worth your while. What a great mindset and what a rich culture they have as a result of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, Sonya, when we look at the business landscape post-pandemic, everything changed. And then, it's kind of been there in the background, but as of late, artificial intelligence, AI, has just been front and center. And I know when this episode comes out, whatever we're talking about today is probably obsolete because AI has made leaps and bounds into other areas. But generally speaking, let's talk best practices here now. With what you're saying, and it's still early days, we're entering the golden era of AI where it can really make a societal and worldwide impact. And, a lot of thought leaders are saying, and I hit the floor when I heard this because it's really revolutionary. Whoever figures out AI today, before the decade is out, particularly the back-end systems, those are the companies that are going to rule the world for the next century. Think about that. And the example that was given was, when we started sailing the seas way back in the day, whoever mastered the seas ruled the world for the next century. So AI is here, and we may not be the companies that are creating the AI platforms and the systems behind the scenes, but there's no reason why in our space, in our industry, we can't lead the way of integrating AI so that we can lead the marketplace for hopefully a century, but for many years at the very least. I'd love your thoughts on that, of what we could be doing now, early days, to begin incorporating this wonderful and powerful technology.
Yes, absolutely. So I'll just share what we've been doing in our company, and that's looking at how could we use this? My whole team is playing with it and saying, how can I apply this to my job? We found things like it can write a job description. If we're looking at how can we improve processes or we need to document process, right? You can put in there, write a process for XYZ, right? And it's coming back and it just needs a few tweaks, right? So it's really looking at how can you really use this? I heard somebody say, like, AI was built for business owners, right? Right. There's so many ways that we can use it to save time. And it's just a matter of being creative with it and testing, but also remembering that there's that human touch side of it, right? So it can't do everything we can do. It can do some things better in some cases, right? But there's that human side of it to say, how does this connect to our purpose? How does this connect to who we are as a company, especially when it comes to things like job descriptions and communications and things like that, where it's putting your flair on it, but really using it as a foundation to be able to speed up processes and help your team do things more efficiently.
And Sonya, for our listeners, what you just shared, I think is so valuable. So for the listeners, did you really pick up on that? Because what you did not hear is, just go to, your favorite AI bot and do a copy and paste and you're done. No, that's not what we're doing here. Because the issue with that, where AI has, I feel, such potential for humanity, for society. It's so big picture, what I'm going to throw out there. We all get the same answers. So we have an opportunity, if the information going into it, if we can keep it clean, we all have the same answers from the questions that we're getting. So the fake news and the polarization of left versus right, we can make all of that or much of that disappear. But the other side to the coin, there's always two sides to the coin to what you're saying. Well, if everyone's getting the same answer and we're just doing a copy and paste, then there's no competitive advantage at that point. Your company sounds like every other company, but what you're saying is, hey, let it do the heavy lifting. Take the results, make it your own, put your own thinking and creativity into it, and maybe it's that last 10, 20% that you're just doing the tweaking on to make something world-class and unique. Would I be on base with that?
Yes, absolutely. It's kind of like saying, instead of starting with a blank sheet of paper, you're starting with an outline. And then you can say, oh, I can take this outline and build on it. And sometimes starting from the blank sheet of paper to getting something on the paper is what takes the most time, right? It's thinking through, what do I want to do? How are we going to put this together? And that just helps speed up that part of the process. And then you can tailor it to be your own.
Yeah, some terrific things there. And, I'm going to put you on the spot. It's anyone's guess right now. If you look out, I don't even want to say 10 years because it's too far out. I don't think anyone has visibility of AI 10 years from now. But if you said the next 12, 24 months, what would you hope or expect to see with AI as it pertains to business?
Yeah, I think there's probably two different things. I think what I expect to see
Mm-hmm.
is people not taking that time and trying to shortcut processes and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of sameness, right? And maybe some people losing some connection as a result of that.
Mm-hmm.
But what I hope for is that it is an opportunity to create more innovation and more freedom, especially for business leaders to be able to say, we can actually free up people's time
Mm-hmm.
to be able to work on more important, more valuable things and take care of some of those foundational things using AI. One of the things that I'm really concerned about is around the hiring process.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had even recruiters say, oh, based on my expertise, based on your expertise, you could write an interview for people and be able to bypass the whole interview process so that leaders don't have to hire people or have those interviews and take that time. And there are some ways of going about that. There's some foundational questions, those screener questions that can come from that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's that part of the culture and really looking for culture fit that an AI isn't going to be able to get to, that you really need to be able to connect with somebody to see if they're a good fit. And so I think that's my caution, right? Is to remember the people side of your business as you're using
Absolutely.
AI. And there's a lot of great to it. I'm super excited about what it's going to create, but also recognizing that there's some dangers to it if you forget about the people side.
Oh, 1,000%. It's that old maxim, Sonia, that you hire for personality, you train for skills. And at least as of this recording, who knows, maybe it'll change when this comes out or beyond. But AI isn't there for personality and assessing who we are. That's really something that you've got to be in the trenches, speaking to the people. And after all, if you think about it, the people that you're hiring today, that's your company tomorrow. That's your culture. That is everything. You want to make sure that you really get it right. And Sonia, let me ask you this. You're out there, you're with the movers and shakers, and you're doing your coaching and you have your system. And whether it's a Fortune 500 or a Fortune 5 or a startup, the one common theme that's going on right now is we have all these distractions that are taking place. The apps on our phone, to the emails, to the in-office meetings, to all these AI algorithms behind the scenes that try and grab our attention and stay on one site longer, and all the stuff that goes on with that. And when you look at what's going on, and then even when you take someone like Professor Gloria Mark, and she's at the University of California, Irvine, her famous study, one interruption, and the interruption could be, your phone going ding or your email client making a sound, and you get distracted for 5 seconds. It takes you 23 minutes to get back into flow, back into that concentration, back into the level where you should be. And so if you do the math, 23 minutes, and we're only at work or we're working remotely or in the office for a certain amount of time, it doesn't take many interruptions that we've lost a day. So how are you working with leaders, their teams, their cultures in terms of strategies and tactics to really minimize those interruptions that we can get that deep work or really the flow and the creativity and just the smart work taking place?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something that I'm really concerned about that I'm seeing in a lot of organizations. And that's the increase in anxiety as a
Mm-hmm.
result of the things that you're talking about. I think, all the distractions are part of it and the uncertainty that we're living in because things are changing so fast, that speed of change. All of these things are contributing to a lot of anxiety. So I've been looking at this quite a bit because I think there was a study that 94% of team members feel that they're experiencing stress at work right now. Big number, right? And we're seeing, especially in younger generations, just this rise in anxiety at work. And so I've really been looking at why is that happening? And it really comes down to two things that they're lacking. One is clarity
Mm-hmm.
and one is focus, right?
Mm-hmm.
So both are contributing to what you're talking about, right? So it really is having that clear purpose and vision, having those clear goals. Where are we focused? What are we working on? And it's narrowing those areas of focus down to no more than 5,
Mm-hmm.
ideally 3, right? 3 areas that your business really needs to win on,
Mm-hmm.
that everybody in the company is focusing on those 3 things, helps to create that focus and that clarity. And then on a day-to-day basis, as you mentioned, really having that time for deep work. And one of the things that I work with when I'm coaching executives is we look at their calendar.
Mm-hmm.
What meetings do you not need to be in? What meetings could your team actually take? And how can we start to free up some time to bring focus to that you're working on the most valuable activities, and then you block time for that. And that is sacred time, right? So whether it's, an hour, 2 hours, whatever it is that you need at your prime time. So if you're a morning person, make it in the morning. If you're an afternoon person, make it in the afternoon. Really use that time where you have the most energy and can turn everything off, right? So you turn off your email, you turn off, your chat functions and your text messages, your phone, and you can really just focus for that period of time on the most important things. And it's amazing what happens where executives really recognize, I have control of my time. It's amazing, right? As leaders, we want to be in service to our customers and clients, in service to our teams. And we forget that we actually do have control of our time, and we can take that control back.
Yeah, some great insights and advice. And so let me follow up on that, because in terms of the anxiety, which leads to mental health issues, which is not a good place for anyone to be. And then you put that into the business context and it just goes from bad to worse. So you alluded to this earlier, and it's somewhat of a general question. And you could easily say, well, Jeffrey, it really depends on the company and the space that they're in and what they want to do. Generally speaking, though, if we look to KPIs, key performance indicators, and what I love about KPIs, when you pick the right ones, it prevents you from confusing activity with progress. And to your point, distractions, and it just becomes very apparent with the KPIs. Hey, we're doing something right, we're not. And so like anything else, you can have too few or too many. But based on your clientele and the results that they've been getting since they've been working with you, are there some KPIs that, Pareto's law, that, hey, Jeffrey, these 20% of KPIs across different companies, across different industries are really getting them 80% of the results? Anything that you can share with us of what our listeners should think about in terms of their own companies?
Yeah, absolutely. I think from a people perspective, around, are they aligned to the vision and the direction of the company, right? So a couple of years ago, when they were talking about the Great Resignation, research was done on why were people leaving companies? And the number one reason was because they felt the company wasn't well led and headed in the right direction. Part of that is if you as a leader or your leadership team isn't all aligned with where you're going, then that can create confusion in the organization, right? So really looking at, can you measure how well aligned your team is? How much do they understand where the company is going? And then I think the third is, what are those things that are really going to move the needle to your vision, right? Those 3 areas of focus that I talked about. And how do you know that you're getting there, right? So if you can see your vision and your vision is clear, then you have those 3 areas of focus. You should be able to measure them and know how well you're doing, and constantly not just communicating how you're doing, but celebrating along the way, right? So that a lot of anxiety comes from kind of feeling like we're on this treadmill and not getting anywhere. And I think because things are moving so fast and things are changing so much, that is happening. I've seen that happen in a lot of organizations where people are just feeling like they're running so fast and they're so busy, but they're not really getting anywhere. And they are, but they're not taking the time to stop and celebrate those small wins along the way, to celebrate those milestones and see that they're making progress, and just take a moment to look back and say, look what we've done, right? And that can start to create more momentum as well.
Yeah, what a great point. And again, it all goes back to having a culture that does this. So let me ask you this, because you're right. It's so easy. We get to the top of one mountain and we don't celebrate. Okay, where's the next mountain we're going to be tackling? And off we go. So what would be some tried and proven celebration tactics or systems that are, low cost, easy to implement in a system that really hammer home people feeling good? We're actually celebrating, we're recognizing what we're doing, that just reinforces the kinds of feelings and behavior we'd love to see.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it really just comes down to authentic and heartfelt thank you.
Interesting. Okay.
And, I think a lot of leaders think, oh, well, we need to have this big thing and we don't have the money to do that. And it doesn't have to be that, right? I think, for me, the most valuable things that I've received in recognition have been handwritten notes. I still have some handwritten notes from past managers that I've had or leaders that I had, and I've kept them. And to remind myself of what that was like and of that time, right? So it can be super simple. And it's really coming from that place of authenticity and recognition of and appreciation of what they've accomplished. And I think that sometimes can go much farther than a big celebration.
It's interesting. In a digital era, we're going old school with a handwritten note. It doesn't take much time, doesn't cost much money. But, to your point, hey, the ones I've received over my career, I've kept them. I still look at them. They mean so much to me. What a powerful tool. And to your point, it's obviously got to be authentic and recognizing what was done and be detailed enough. But what a great way just to recognize a team or an individual and let them know, hey, keep up the great work. Really proud of you.
Yeah, absolutely. And catching them doing right things, right? So it's not making it robotic. Send them a text or an email. Hey, I saw that you accomplished this. I just wanted to say thank you. That was a great job, right?
Yeah, nice. So Sonya, just before we begin to wrap up, with every episode, we like to have the listener walk away with really one actionable item. So before this episode's done, before our listeners go to their phone calls or emails, their meetings, to put you on the spot, it may be hard to choose one thing out of all the different strategies and tactics that you have. If a listener could do one thing, though, starting today, that would begin the process of really moving the dial in a positive way for their business, for their leadership. If you had to pick one thing, what do you think that would be?
It always comes to starting with why, right? So looking at what motivates you, what motivates your team. If you don't know, ask them and ask them, why do they do what they do? And what's important to them? And that's going to help you understand how to motivate them. It's super simple to do. You can do it today.
Nice. Some great insights there. Well, let me ask you this as the wrap-up question. It's a thought experiment. It's a fun question. I'll set this up for you. So think of that terrific movie, Back to the Future. And in the movie, you have that magical DeLorean car that will take you to any point in time. And so now here's the fun part, Sonya. It's tomorrow morning. You look outside your window. Not only is the DeLorean car there, but it's curbside, door open, waiting for you to hop on in. So you go in and you're now going to go to a previous point in your life. Maybe when you're a young child, a teenager, whatever point in time it would be, what are you telling your younger self in terms of, hey, Sonya, here's some life wisdom or life lessons, or do this, but don't do that? What do you think that would sound like?
Well, first you put me back to my youth of when I first saw that movie. Yeah, it's a great movie. Yeah, I think I would tell myself to be present because I don't think that I would change anything because even the hard times have led to something amazing in the future and something that I've learned or been able to help other people with. And so I think I would tell myself just to be present and enjoy the ride and to remember that those hard times are leading towards lessons that you can use in the future, right? And I think, especially as business owners, it's important to remember like that we go through some tough stuff and we can learn from all of it. And so can our teams.
Terrific insights. It's a common theme that I hear a lot. Guests say, Jeffrey, I don't think I would change anything because if I did, I wouldn't be who I am today and where I am. Good times, challenging times, everything, it all played a role. So some terrific insights and advice. And Sonya, we're going to have this all in our show notes for listeners who want to reach out to you. They have a question. They want to be in your coaching program, in your systems. Where's the best place online that they can reach you?
So I think our website, executiveleader.com, is the best place to reach. We have lots of resources there. I'm very active on LinkedIn. If you want to connect with me, I do look at all the messages that I receive on LinkedIn and also on the website. And then I'd love to offer your listeners an opportunity to take the masterclass on Red Thread Leadership for free. So if you're interested in learning more about how to create purpose and run that red thread of purpose through your organization, you can go to redthreadleadership.com and you can take that class for free.
Wow, stop the presses. What a gift. And for listeners, take Sonya up on that offer. We'll have that in the show notes. We'll also have the link to your book, Sonya. You're an executive, but are you a leader? Encourage all of the listeners, go get that, read that, take the master class, do something for yourself, move the dial for you, your team, your business. After all, society is depending on us as leaders, as business owners to solve those painful problems, make it a better place. Sonya, it's official. This is a wrap. Thank you so much for your wisdom and your insights. And as we like to say here at Deep Wealth, please thrive and prosper and stay healthy and safe. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The Deep Wealth experience was definitely a game changer for me.
This course is one of the best investments you will ever make, because you will get an ROI of 100 times that. Anybody who doesn't go through it will lose millions.
If you don't have time for this program, you'll never have time for a successful liquidity.
I mean, it was the best value of any business course I've ever taken. The money was very well spent.
Compared to when we first began, today I feel better prepared, but in some respects, maybe less prepared, not because of the course, but because the course brought to light so many things that I thought we were on top of that we need to fix.
I 100% believe there's never a great time for a business owner to allocate extra hours into his or her week or day. So it's an investment that will yield results today. I thought I will reap the benefit of this program in 3 to 5 years down the road. But as soon as I stepped forward into the program, my mind changed immediately.
There was so much value in the experience that the time I invested paid back so much for the energy that was expended.
The Deep Wealth experience compared to other programs is the top. What we learned is very practical. Sometimes you learn stuff that is great to learn, but you never use it. The stuff we learned from Deep Wealth experience, I believe is going to benefit us all.
I've done an executive MBA. I've worked for billion-dollar companies before. I've worked for smaller companies before I started my business. I've been running my business successfully now for getting close to a decade. We're on a growth trajectory. Reflecting back on the Deep Wealth, I knew less than 10% what I know now. Maybe close to 1% even.
Hands down the best program in which I've ever participated. And we've done a lot of different things over the years. We've been in other mastermind groups, gone to many seminars, workshops, conferences, retreats, read books. This was so different. I haven't had an experience that's anything close to this in all the years that we've been at this. It's 5-star, A+.
I would highly recommend it to any super busy business owner out there. And Deep Wealth is an accurate name for it. This program leads to deeper wealth and happier wealth, not just deeper wealth. I don't think there's a dollar value that could be associated with such an experience and knowledge that could be applied today and forever.
Are you leaving millions on the table? Please visit www.deepwealth.com/success to learn more. If you're not on my email list, you'll want to be. Sign up at www.deepwealth.com/podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode, if it added value, if you walked away with some new insights and strategies, please leave a review on your favorite podcast channel. Reviews help us reach new listeners, grow the show, and continue to create content that you'll enjoy. And as we wrap up this episode, as always, please stay healthy and safe.